Okay, good afternoon, ladies, gents. Delighted that you've managed to come back after a rather heavy lunch, and hopefully we'll keep you awake over the course of the next 25 minutes or so. Today we're going to be talking about innovation and just how easy it is here in the UK, or how hard it is here in the UK, because over my career, I can't even tell you how many articles I've written on the subject of innovation that have gone out into some of our national press, and it's had feedback from one party or another. And I always used to put it down to, there were 4 areas I felt that, you know, maybe why we didn't innovate, why I wasn't so proud in England of the rate of innovation. And I put it down to apathy, limited capability, lack of funding, or simply the fact that we didn't feel empowered to challenge some of the existing standards, and we'd rather present them as barriers in terms of why we couldn't innovate. So we know what the process is pretty much here in the UK for innovation. Many of the SMEs who are represented here today, I've spoken with a vast number of you who all tell me it's pretty hard. Say it's pretty difficult, Duffy. You know, we've got a great product or a great service here, and then I go to a client, the client says, are you on our list? And I say, no, and they say, can't use you. And then I go to a client and I say, got this great product or service, and they say, you're on our list? And I say, yeah, and they say, you got APAS approval? And I say, no, they say, we can't use you. So it's always, often an easy back in terms of why clients might not look to try something new. Thought I'd really put that to the test. So I've been saying that for a number of years now. Happy to find out if I'm wrong. The best way that we thought we could establish whether or not this is fact or fiction would be to invite 3 of our member organisations, each of whom represent an organisation who is working rather extensively elsewhere in the world, you know, throughout Europe and indeed further afield. So is it easier in some of these countries to implement new ideas, new ways of thinking? Because I know that there's a number of organisations who are operating here in the UK who are also looking further afield. So is it easier to operate in Germany or Greece or France or Australia? Or is it just the same? You know, is it just the same wherever we go in this world? So to help us put that theory to some sort of test, we've got Paul Kidd from Eurovia, sat on the end there. We've got Andreas Opp from Octave, who is sat with me on this near side, who are looking to break into the UK highways maintenance market. Extensive experience throughout the whole of Europe and indeed worldwide, taking the larger group. And then we got Ben Rawdings from JCB, and I know that, Ben, you know, you've got your view in terms of how easy it is to bring new innovations here by way of the products and services that you offer. So that's the panel that we've got. That's the concept of this session. We'll endeavour to stick to time, and I'd like to kick off by asking the panel the first question is, have we got the balance right here in England? Is it easier to operate outside of England to deliver innovation? And if so, why? What are the factors? And I'd like Andreas to kick us off, please.
Checking. Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you, Martin. Question is basically just wanted to say that generally as a non-UK based citizen, and I'm also only part-time based in the UK, the other time I'm spending my work life in Austria. Generally, I find the UK a very, very innovative market, and I think this is also an audience that symbolizes it, and people are talking to each other. You have a great set of entrepreneurs, so I think generally the market is very innovative, I would say. The question was, is the UK enough to bring in embracing innovation?
Yeah, you know, you work extensively in Greece, I know that, and throughout Europe. Is it easier to bring new innovations there in those projects that you've got than it is here?
Probably to a certain extent, yes. And I mean, thinking about it, what brings in innovation through the contract. And sometimes when I look at UK-based contracts, I think it's difficult to really bring in innovation. Like, for example, in our European contracts or in the US, we usually operate long-term, like 25, 40 years, and we are also the asset manager, and the remuneration scheme is performance-based or availability-based. So we are responsible actually for providing an available network to the client. And this is, I think, different to, let's say, rather short-term contract or a schedule of rate contract. And thinking about it, schedule of rates, it in somehow favors or encourages reactive maintenance. And reactive maintenance meaning you want to perform work, you want to do potholes. I mean, that's how you're remunerated. Does that really bring in innovation to just do reactive? In some I'm thinking not, and perhaps that's something to consider, a different, let's say, enhancement coming from the remuneration mechanism, like for example having availability as key. So that encourages in somehow the operator to be proactive, to actually do less maintenance instead of doing more maintenance reactive, and have this shift to proactive maintenance. And I think this approach of going to proactive direction is actually innovative. You try to continuously throughout the contract innovate yourself. You speak to the local supply chain, hey, what are you doing? You try to continuously redevelop yourself. You have a whole life cost approach, and I think this is different to actually have your work not on reactive maintenance but on proactive maintenance due to the, let's say, due to the contract regime and also due to the contract length.
Brilliant, Andreas. So, a couple of things going on there. One is about the term of the arrangement that you've got in place, and the other is about the incentivization mechanisms that are put in place that might drive innovation perhaps a little bit quicker or easier in some of your European contracts. So, Ben, could I ask you the same question from your perspective? Very different service. What does it look like through your eyes?
Well, I'd echo. Hello? Yeah. I'd echo what Andreas said in terms of definitely that performative element of it. A lot of the local authorities and central governments that we work with in JCB, it is more structured but more longer term. Some of the local authorities I'm working with now, it's budgets into 2026, 2027. Obviously appreciate with the stability of the UK, it's not always possible for us to look that far. In terms of the actual delivery of that innovation, I would say one thing we've really got going for us in the UK, we have got a great talent pool in terms of the engineering resource, in terms of the drive for innovation, and the fact that we're here today, obviously there is a real pull from the market in that sense. I would say one of the real barriers that we face in the UK is actually the ability of, when you've got that innovation, is to deliver it on the network. So a practical example is the skilled operators. As an industry, we face a real challenge with operators in the market that want to go into our sector rather than the traditional construction type market. And I lived in Scandinavia previously, and to see the way that they operate in that particular market, where you're getting operatives at 6, 7, 8 years old joining operator schools, have a real passion for machine operation, going through those qualifications, and then as a result, the desirability of that profession is far changed. And I think that's one thing, as a supplier base, we can do a lot more within that supply chain, is to do our bit to attract labour and upskill them, but also offer that consultative approach. And that's one thing, we've particularly been guilty as a business, is we've left it to our dealers, and we've allowed that message to be very sales focused. Whereas the one thing that we do find is easier in a lot of the Central Europe is you're able to be a bit more consultative, and you're able to lead that as an OEM. And that's one thing we really want to bring into that UK market. And with our side, putting money where our mouth is by things like trials and demonstrations, offering it free of charge, allowing local authorities to see innovation, to get that data behind it, to prove out the route that they want to take, and then allow them to make that informed decision at the end of it.
Yeah, that's really interesting what you've said there, Ben. We talked about short-termism this morning in connection with social value. and are we continually looking through that lens here? So I'll appoint you for 1 year, 18 months, or 2 years max, and yet elsewhere you're getting a 4 or a 5 year arrangement, and we know that that does facilitate opportunity for innovation. I was interested in what you said about that skills gap element and working with the younger people to bring them through, and it's a more exciting industry, is it? Is that how it appears through those eyes? Is it more exciting to the kids over in Europe?
I think a lot of it is non-tangible. It's it's something that's hard to grasp. But starting them early is for me is a key one. So it's great to see the work that Elkrig's doing with Salford University as a primary thing. But again, it's making sure that those skills are not the skills that are needed today, but it's the skills that we need in 5, 10, 15 years time. And that's something that, like I say, as a supplier network, we've got to do better at to help facilitate and share that best practice and the trends that we're seeing globally into the UK.
Brilliant, thanks. So, Paul, through your eyes, a well-established operator here in the UK, but obviously as well overseas. How different is it?
Yeah, thank you, Martin. I think with Eurovia, what we see is the UK is very passionate about innovation, and they want to bring it to the contracts, probably more so than some of the other worldwide partners that we've got within the company. So the UK, we've got, I think the problem we've got in the UK is we like a standard, we like a specification, and sometimes it's difficult to work around those standards when we've got new products coming to market that we want to share with our clients. We've got that global research that reached back to our research and development in France. So there's a lot of good ideas coming out of Europe. But we bring it back to a local level in the UK, working with our clients. And I think the key for us to get these products and innovations on the ground is we need the trials. So we need to be, and some clients are really good at giving us a trial where we can trial it on the network. It's an opportunity to trial it, and if it fails, it fails. But it's trying to have that shared risk with our clients that not everything's going to work, but it's those one trials that are really successful, we can then collaborate and we can share that best practice with our other clients. So yes, so departures from standards will help that process, given the opportunity to bring some of these products to market, because there are a lot of products out there that we're not using in the UK that we could bring to market.
I'm fascinated by this whole area, really, about departures from standards. In fact, once on a stage, I can't remember where it was, here or somewhere else, I said they're getting away with innovation. Then I got told off after that they're there to protect you, Duffy, the standards of the UK. That's what they're there for. But I still, I have this little bit of me niggling away that they do prevent me from moving forward at a pace. When you mentioned trials as well, Paul, I'm guessing you don't want a trial here in Blackpool and then to go over to North Yorkshire and go and see the MD, Jamie, over there and say, Jamie, we've trialled this over in Blackpool. We'd like to now implement it in your, and for Jamie to go, yeah, you can run a trial. So trials after trial after trial is not good value for us either as a sector. Is that something any of you have been faced with in the past? Like, bloody hell, trial after trial after trial.
If I could just finish on that, the Warmix asphalt was first trialled in the UK in around 2002.
Yeah.
It's been around for a long time. America, Europe adopted it. I think we got our volumes up to 4% in 2019, and then it was put into our standards, so we can now use it. But it's starting to increase now, but it's a slow burn in the UK sometimes with these products.
Ben?
Yeah, just to add to that, really. Just to add, I'm really struggling with my microphone.
Don't worry.
You on? Hello? Yeah,
Yep,
I'm back. Just to echo that from my side as well. I mean, I can be open. I think I spent £100,000 last year on machine transport, sending machines all across the UK to do trials. So it's a lot of money we spend on that side. But I think the balance is there, because you're right, we can't paint every authority with the same brush. What's appropriate to a rural county council is not going to be appropriate to a city council. And that's why I think, contractors with likes of Paul are pretty critical in that respect. You mentioned there, Paul, sharing between contracts. Yeah. And I think that plays a huge part in sharing the best practice, because you'll know your own metrics, the contracts associated, how that relationship works from client to contractor. and there you'll know which of those methods, which of those innovations, which of those best practices can then be mirrored and which can't, which is a critical one. So again, I think probably one thing we've all got to be conscious of is that full, from initial resident into client, contractor, supply chain, all getting around that one table to facilitate what that looks like, and again, being open and honest with the data. As a supplier network, we've got millions of machines with all those telematics bringing us amazing insights. We can use some of those to share, that's where we can segment a certain local authority and mirror that with other local authorities of a similar makeup, and where they've worked well, where there's telematics approved, carbon reductions, efficiency gains, etc. I guess the challenge is in what form and what cost do we implement that sort of technology.
So this is where I get in trouble with Kerry and with Paula and said, you know what, here's a massive opportunity for Elcrigg. And I'm not looking for us to become an approvals board, but maybe can we help coordinate some of the trials? And if we coordinate some of the trials and the authority where those trials have been held produces one single Elcrigg branded report that says, hey, it went well here in Blackpool, then maybe that might give confidence to some of our other local authorities to be able to step straight in and use, as opposed to even more trials. So maybe something for us to think about within Elcrigg. I'd like to move on to the second question, which is around innovations that you've been able to introduce elsewhere, but you find it difficult to implement here. We'll start with you, Ben.
The one that jumps to mind from my perspective is our Road to Zero range. So as JCB, for those that don't know us, we're a family business. We're still privately owned, and that allows us to invest a lot of money into innovation without pesky shareholders telling you shouldn't do it. But the zero emissions range has been a critical one for us. We've got the largest electric range, but already we're moving into those alternative fuels. And I would say one thing where there is a stark difference is that consultative and willingness from a national level, particularly in central government and local government in some of the other regions, where they're really banging on our door to say, come in, open book, let's review, let's go through this. And I think that's one thing as an industry in the UK we probably can get better at. I think from our side, with the budget constraints, I have a huge amount of sympathy for local authorities, whereby really we've got to be working hand in front of face, and it's the policy and legislation that are driving maybe more of your HGV, light equipment, that sort of stuff to electric. But plant is going to come. So the sooner we can have that engagement, we can have those conversations, and you can work out what that roadmap looks like, and lean on the supplier base across the different supply network to help share some of the data around how that could work and when that could work is pretty critical. Because it's a costly old initiative to invest in innovation. And if you get that wrong, there's a risk of individuals putting their head above the parapet and being accountable for that. So the more that you can consult and speak and engage in those conversations early, particularly around the likes of those zero emissions, for us is one that we'd like to do. And hydrogen is a big part of that. For us, we've invested a huge amount into hydrogen technology. And I've got some local authorities in Europe that have got their full hydrogen plan ready to go. Now, I think in the UK, you ask how many people have got a hydrogen plan, probably not many of us. And that's a huge amount of fault on us because we've not been pushing as much as a supplier base. But equally, lean on us as a supplier. And I would say one sort of caveat to that is making sure you're going to the right supplier base that isn't necessarily a dealer or someone that is an intermediary where their pure focus is to sell. The consultative bit has to be with levels of innovation and engineering capabilities, so that feedback can directly influence the innovation grounds, what comes in terms of the results of machinery and equipment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you've said there. Andre, it's a bit more difficult for you to answer because of the fact that you're not operating that maintenance function here yet, but you perhaps already have a vision of what might be difficult here. Will you share that with us?
Yeah, thank you. This now from operating perspective, meaning not JCB equipment supply operating perspective. Coming back to your question, I would say almost every innovation is difficult to implement. And thinking about, I was working quite some years in Greece, and within a Greek project, we implemented, let's say, LED transfer from conventional lighting towards LED, but with a central management software. So we were able to actually gain efficiency gains, electricity reduction through the LEDs by itself, but had an additional, let's say, energy reduction through dimming, dynamic dimming, according to traffic, according to demand, according to incidents, accidents, weather. And so in total, we had an energy reduction of 80%. And in total, I mean, the central control management system really helps us in maintaining doing repairs, doing proactive maintenance, and so we also have a considerable reduction in maintenance costs in this respect. Why is it difficult to implement? It costs money, of course, and where are the savings actually then generated? And for example, if you have, let's say, contracts 5 to 8 years, I'm speaking as a, let's say, a private contractor, it's really difficult in terms of competition. Am I actually in the position am I willing to actually invest in this, and who's actually benefiting from lower maintenance cost and from lower energy costs?
No.
So it's,
Absolutely, Andreas. Yeah. And again, it's a bit of a common theme coming through about it's the term, the contract term is impacting on the ability for these organisations to be able to innovate. So clients who are out there, think long and hard about what your contract term arrangements might be when you're buying something, particularly if you want them to innovate during the term of that arrangement. Yeah. And finally, Paul, any examples of things more difficult here than elsewhere?
I think you saw Rory and Hertfordshire with the HDS system. That's just one aspect. We've been working closely with HDS and digitising our operations, that automation, quality assurance, automating that data so clients have got visibility on what we're laying on the network to give it that assurances that it's going to perform in the long term. So we're seeing a lot more clients now adopting that technology, but it's been a slow process. We introduced them to our colleagues in America, other parts of Eurovia, and they've already set a business up in America and they've adopted it slightly different in America because they give incentives. So the DOT over in America, the contractors get an incentive for laying that material right first time. So straight away the contractors, I'm going to buy that technology because I'm going to get it back and we're going to guarantee the client that we're going to lay the quality and they've got visibility. So again, it's just trying to speed up the process of sharing this technology because we are moving that way, but we just need to move a bit quicker.
Yeah, there's common themes here, isn't there? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out why we stumble a little bit sometimes with trying to get things introduced that are new here. I've just on to the final question now, only because of time, and I'm going to say you've probably all heard about the phrase, the race to the bottom. Been involved in it myself, making sure that we underbid the next nearest contractor and so on and so forth, to a point where the bids are unsustainable. And was it in 2015 the regs introduced the phrase around the unsustainable bids, and it stopped people submitting penny rates and the like. So in terms of the race to the bottom, we've overcome it here, I'm going to claim, largely, on behalf of the UK market and operations. How do we compare with some European countries? Paul, you kick us off.
I think we're talking to some colleagues, France in particular are quite aggressive. In the UK, we've moved towards that 70% quality, 30% price on a lot of our contracts. So there is that round of negotiations, normally get to the third round of negotiations and everybody's on a par with their quality, all the innovations have been wrapped up in their quality bid. So that's done and then it comes down to submitting your price. And then that's the race to the bottom. So unfortunately, sometimes, you're going to get what you've always got if you haven't priced innovation and been able to differentiate yourselves from the what you can offer. So the dialogue is important and I think they do a lot more dialogue in Europe. Where they actually sit with the contractor, the partner, what are you going to give me on this journey? And they get to see the whites of the eyes in terms of this is what innovation means to us and this is what we can do to deliver your contract. But again, the longer term contracts help with that process as well, because you can invest.
Yeah, no, so that's maybe why either competitive dialogue or competitive procurement with negotiation is the right route for your organisation in the UK. Andreas, from your perspective, is there a race to the bottom going on in other contracts that you're involved in across the globe?
Yeah, I think there are pros and cons. I mean, from a pro perspective, I like that the quality aspect has a good part of it. But if you think about schedule of rates is just asking for a cheap price. And cheap price, in some cases, also leads to cheap solutions. And I think this is not what a good contractual relationship is asking for. And I think you could think about other, let's say, evaluation mechanism, whole life cost, having actually other aspects included in it, or tunnel operations. You have minimum operating requirements that really incentivize actually high products, high processes, and sometimes, or in most, if you have, let's say, NPV evaluation mechanisms, actually the more expensive solution could be actually also commercially favorable. So it shouldn't be always about the price, schedule of rates. There can be other aspects also considered, like whole life cost, minimum operating requirements, in order to get the best solution or most commercially favorable.
Smash it. Thanks, Andreas. And Ben, finally to you, if I'm going to buy a JCP Pothole Pro, am I better off buying it here or over in France or Germany? Where am I going to get the best deal? Money-wise, just money-wise.
UK-wise, we offer, as the only nation, we offer full free training. So that's a big bit there. But I would say one bit that we really differentiate in the UK side compared to some of our European counterparts is we find we're able to open that dialogue earlier in Europe, as we touched upon, but also talk around the post-sale bits. You know, we have 600 service engineers, and I think that downtime and the ability for the asset to be working as much as it can, sweat that asset and the versatility of that asset and what it can do, is pretty critical. So if you get to the price bit before you start talking about anything else, you're going about it wrong. As Andreas touched upon, it should be more a case of that TCO, that value to the network, as well as just what it's there to do. And it's not just black and white from that sense.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for all of your responses, all three of you, on that. For me to summarise, I'll steal a phrase from Jamie Crumley. She's sat over there as the MD of MY Ways, and I sit on the board every month with him. And the FD, we open up the finance report, and every single time she opens up is, "You're doing all right, but you're not quite there yet." So that's probably where I feel we are with innovation here in the UK, that we're doing all right. But you know what, you've got a bit of scope for some further improvement. I think I'm about on time now, without any questions. Or have I got time for questions? Does anybody know? Yeah, is there any questions from the audience to our European experts here? Yes? Down at the front, Ian.
Hiya, Ian Lodge, Head of Service at Blackpool. It's a point Paul made earlier about risk, shared risk, so innovation and trials. It's a question. The question is that a huge problem? Is that a big barrier? Are you expected to shoulder the risk of a trial? Because in my mind, that when you're ready for a trial, you're confident that it's going to be successful, because you're not going to try something that you've got, it's not going to might work, you're confident of it. Do you still get asked to share to shoulder the whole risk?
Okay, I think the point there is trying to do it offline in not a very sensitive area, so you've got a safe area to trial it. But there's got to be an understanding and appreciation there that if it hasn't worked, we've got to take it out and replace it. Financially, it depends on the products and the innovation that we're trying to trial, but generally, it's being given the opportunity to carry out the trial in the first place. But you're right, under controlled circumstances, the contractor needs to have some confidence in what they're doing as well.
Sorry, just to add another quick thought. And do you think the concern is the cost or the failure in the highway? What's your opinion?
I I think it's just the...
Not that they all fail, obviously.
Yeah, no, I think it's been given the opportunity to carry out the trial in the first place, but with an understanding, if it doesn't work, then we need to do something different. But again, the problem we have is we're doing trials in different contracts, so generally we've done it in another area and it's worked, but clients like to see that the product works first time, but you need to trial it.
I know, yeah.
So that's the message, really.
Okay, thank you. And as you probably know, Ian, I'm the sticker rock that's cut in the middle and it says public sector, local authority. However, I'm going to stand up for the private sector for a moment here and say, do you know what, Ian Large? If you want innovation, you accept some of the risk. So look to share the risk, the clients. Don't lump it all on the private sector and say that's your... Otherwise, you won't get innovation. So look to get that balance right of the risk and the reward indeed. And that's a nice point to end this session on. I would like you all to join me in thanking our panellists today. Thank you. Well done, guys.